soil, but I prefer to take them halfway down myself. It seems to give the rest of the plant a bit of protection from anything really. But yeah, as you can see there, choose leaves that are big enough. Leave the smaller ones to grow on. So you're looking for the more mature leaves that you're going for, and they've had time to develop the flavour as well. Whereas the younger, thinner shoots, they've not developed that nice flavour that you're going to be looking for in your cooking or your salads.
Sure. I think too, Kieran, chives, I don't know what you do with yours, but I tend to use chives for anything that I would use scallions for. So, you know, in sandwiches, through noodles or rice or champ, you know, so if you run out of scallions and you have chives, you're landed. You're fine.
It's one of those perpetual ones. You know, the more you cut it, the more it comes. So, you know, it's great to have, especially like we were saying a few weeks ago, to have something like that on your windowsill in the kitchen. You don't have to go searching. You can just take your pair of scissors or your knife and just whip a few bits off and cut it into your salad or into your sauce.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're a great companion in the kitchen.
They are indeed. They are. I love them. So parsley next.
Yeah, parsley. Well, like we were saying, this is the one that you would cut down at the base. So again, I look for the more mature leaves. Let the others, the smaller, less mature ones to develop. And you're also then keeping the plant, it's still getting the sunlight to produce more of a plant. So here we go. We've got cut from the outside. Again, if you damage the heart of the plant, that's when disease or it leaves it susceptible for any pests to get in as well. So that's tends to be why I'd always go from the outside into the inside of the plant.
Sure. Okay. Good tip there too. And if you harvest parsley like that, actually it'll go a pretty long time for you, won't it, Kieran?
Yeah.
Okay. Now rosemary.
Rosemary. Yeah, you showed us a good example there last week of taking the tip off the rosemary and repotting it. That's the same bit that has all the goodness in that we're looking for, really. I mean, you could cut it down further on down and then you're just damaging the plant, really. You're bruising it. So you want the young tips on this, whereas before we were looking for the more mature leaves, like in spinach and your chives that we just looked at. But with your rosemary, you're looking for the younger shoots at the very top, the more supple, succulent ones.
Sure.
So what we're saying here, cut off about 2 inches, just the tips only, really. Store them store them for cooking. What we got here, I'm sorry, I haven't got my glasses on. Rather than harvesting long sprigs, 6 to 8 inches can be harvested, but leave enough for the plant. That's it. Thank you.
That's a great assistant you've got there, Kieran.
Yeah, I knew I'd put them down somewhere, but I couldn't see them. I'm getting to that age where I need them all the while now for reading. Yeah. So yeah.
And yes, and actually, so again, hardy herbs like that, like rosemary and thyme and sage, I suppose you can dry those for, hang them up just in your kitchen or somewhere airy, even I suppose with in a garage with plenty of ventilation, and then I mean things like parsley and coriander and fennel and dill and stuff don't really dry that well. I don't think even mint is better fresh, but certainly rosemary is one that you could, if you're growing your own, actually you probably have it outside all the time anyway, but it's something that could be dried and stored for future use. So what, there we go, thyme. Next one's thyme.
Yeah, choose long stems and just pull the leaves off. Avoid the woody stems because you don't want that in your cooking. It means you've got to then pull them all the leaves off. But you want the younger the younger shoots or the younger leaves again for this. The woody stems, like we were saying, haven't really got the flavour in that you're looking for. And again, leave at least 5 inches to ensure that the thyme keeps growing. Cut, you cut about 4 inches from the top. That's about the best. But again, little and often, only cut it when you want to. Again, this is something you could store in an airtight jar, but it's going to take up room then in your cupboards and whatnot. So just keep it in life's larder, really, in earth's larder. Keep it in the garden till you need it.
I love that. Life's larder, absolutely. Just as a note, that is thyme from my garden, but it's broadleaf thyme, which is people would be in the background. You can see sort of more common thyme, which has got smaller wee leaves on it. But the broadleaf, I think, has got really good flavour, and it's actually easier to harvest a whole lot of it, if you know what I mean, because the leaves are bigger. Just a wee tip there now, if you happen to see anybody selling a wee pot of broadleaf thyme, it's worth having. So next we've got the coriander.
Yeah, again, coriander. Again, it's knowing your herb or your plants, really. So wait until it's at least 6 inches tall. Only cut the leaves that you need. It's best to collect the leaves one at a time. That way you're not cutting too many stems that you're not going to use. So cut only one at a time. Unless you're harvesting, if you're going to be drying it into batches or going to be using it for a big pot, just take what you need, really. Cut in bunches should be 2/3 of the plant left behind. That way you're leaving enough for the rest of the leaves to get the sunlight so that it can then rejuvenate. But a good tip is if you are going to be cutting it quite heavily, feed around the plant as well with some compost, just to help it to get that rejuvenation into it.
Sure, good tip, actually, because you can't, if you keep taking, you have to keep giving back, don't you? By putting stuff in, nutrition into the plant. Also, I think with coriander and parsley, in terms of storage, I would bring those inside and wash, just rinse them in cold water and then put them in an airtight tub and store them in the fridge. And you could probably get like a week to 10 days out of that, but because they've got those leaves and they are quite soft, if you leave them sort of outside on the bench, they will fade on you quite quickly. So for maximum flavour, we rinse or spray them with water and put them in your fridge.
It's a good point to remember washing them, because there is bugs and eggs attached to a lot of the plants there. I know a lot of people who do cook with herbs will always say not to be rinsing them and whatnot because of losing that oil, but you've got to wash them because of the eggs that could be attached to them, and you don't want to be eating all that stuff.
Well, that's right. Yeah, you don't want to be eating a wee creature that you didn't intend to. Sure, you don't.
No.
Okay, so then moving on and get storing the herbs.
Yeah, like we mentioned there about airtight containers, it's ways of storing them. So you can store them in a vase or a vase of water. If you're going to cut it early in the morning, like we said, was a good time to cut them. Store them in a jar of water, or just like you would, you cut flowers. So store them in a fridge, wrapped in some damp kitchen towel, just to keep them moist, so they're not drying out. Because once that oil dries out from the plant, it does lose a lot of the flavour, and that's what you're growing them for. So in the longer term, some herbs you can dry out, like Jilly mentioned. So you can dry them in bunches. This can take several weeks. Strip dried, when we mentioned about strip dried, that means we're taking the leaves off the stems, like the likes of your thyme there to take the actual leaves off the strip to put it into airtight jars. Freezing, this is something that my wife always does with the herbs, is she'll freeze them, and then that way you can put the ice cube on top of the sauce and it just melts into the sauce. Or if she's doing a stir fry, it's great, they're just ready, packaged for you in them little ice cubes. So that's a good way of storing them in the freezer.
That's a brilliant tip, actually. That whole, yeah, the brilliant tips. Freeze them in an ice cube tray.
Yeah, but you can use either water or oil depending on what you're going to be cooking them in, really.
Sure. Okay. What are we on to now? Edible flowers.
Yeah. Again, we're looking at the early in the morning. We're going to be picking the flowers. Again, this is the best time when they're covered in dew. So picking the coolest part of the day, either early morning or late afternoon. Ensure flowers has fully opened before picking. But with some plants like the borage there, you can see in the center, I find these are actually better picked just if you can get them just before they actually open. That's when you're getting the freshness from them. But yeah, choose flowers that are in good condition. You know, if like I said earlier, if a plant's looking distressed or wilting or whatever, it is going to affect the flavor. So you really want to be going for the best ones there, really. So always choose the ones that are in the best condition, and just pinch the flowers off for harvest. You know, you can see what they are. If you're going to take them and use them straight away, you could take just the flower off. But if you're going to be keeping them in a vase of water, leave a bit of the stem, because that stops all the petals falling off then, and it just keeps them fresher that little bit longer. As you can see, the examples there we've got on the left are violas or pansies. We've got the borage in there in the center, your chive. I love the flower on a chive. It's an added bonus to the chive, really. But again, they're lovely to eat. And then your marigolds, great, and they look nice as well in a salad. They put color into a salad, add in some nasturtiums or some marigolds like that. So yeah, again, I've seen the violas there frozen in ice cubes, put into a nice drink, and it just lifts the drink, having that flower in there in an ice cube.
They do indeed, Kieran, don't they? They don't. I mean, a lot of edible flowers don't necessarily have a very strong flavour, but they just look really pretty, don't they? And
Yeah.
I've seen also violas and borage and pot marigolds petals and stuff, so rolled into shortbread dough before baking, which is really nice. In fact, the one of the videos that Kim Close did for us, which is available on YouTube, she shows you how to do that. So well worth a go, because it kind of lifts your spirits looking at them.
Yeah, it changes from a bland salad to a posh salad, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. You're right. Okay, salad leaves is the next.
Yeah, again, we're looking for the more mature leaf here, because you want the young adolescent leaves to develop more, and that's what you're going to be picking next time. So always harvest what you want and go for the outside leaves, the bigger adult leaves, really. They're the better ones to do, because then you've got more to pick next time. So you're just prolonging the life of your plant, really. Cut early in the morning again. That seems to be the best time to pick your vegetables and your herbs and your salad growth. Avoid damage to the center of the plant, because then this can then let the water in, and it can then start rotting. So that's why we're trying to avoid damaging the center of the plant, and it also stops the growth. So always go from the outside inwards, really. Cut leaves about 1 inch from the base.
Great.
That's it.
Absolutely great advice. I just wanted to say too, those images there in the bottom left, are those are from the salad leaf seeds in the Food for Thought growing packs. So I took an envelope myself and sowed all of the seeds on the 15th of September. So I think actually they've done quite well, if you, because those are just about ready to harvest for me, I think. And the radishes, which you'll see later. So it just shows you in a matter of weeks what you can do. And mine wouldn't have got as much care as yours, Kieran, because you do the whole covering them up with fleece and causing them the whole lot.
I pamper mine.
You pamper yours. And they weren't even sown in pots or modules and transplanted. They were sown direct. So there's an odd wee hole in them from our slug visitors, but nothing very much at all, which is great. So okay, where are we now? Spinach.
Spinach, I've such a versatile plant. Really, you can have it in salads, soups. It's a great. Some salad. I'm always just pinching off the leaves. I'll be honest. From this, again, I go for the more mature leaves from the outside, only because I know that the younger leaves have got room to grow, and I'm saving them for the next time. You know, you want to prolong the life of your plant so that you can get the best and most from it. So yeah, I just picked them off, to be honest. You can cut them with a pair of scissors, but I just nip them off, and great. I take these from the base just to stop the rest of the leaf really from rotting off. But great, just keep picking away at it. And again, like we said earlier, if you get the chance, feed it as well. Keep on feeding it, even if you just give it a liquid feed with your borage or your nettle. But like Jilly says, when you take out, you have to give back, and it'll then keep you going and save you having to buy more. That's what we're trying to look at. We're trying to get the most and maximum out of what you're growing. So just keep feeding it and keep taking from it. The more you take the leaves from spinach, the more it will produce.
That's true. And actually, again, those are from my own garden and were sown direct on the 15th of September. So they're not that they're not massively old, and they will probably sit over the winter. Now they'll take, depending on the temperature and this, there's not that much light, but you'll be able to take leaves every now and again, and then come early spring they'll put on another wee spurt, won't they, Kieran?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so pea shoots, the powerful pea shoots. So
yeah, we showed you these in the very first video where we'd grown some peas, but it's not just the peas. The pea shoots is great in salads, and that's what Jilly's cutting there. It's the top 6 to 8 inches of the pea is what you're looking at, and then take that off and then leave it for a bit longer, and then it'll grow again, and then you can take the next 6 to 8 inches off, and they're great in salads. Regrowth, like we're saying there, regrowth can be harvested every few weeks, taking the same amount, that 6 to 8 inches, and they're lovely. And I think it's very it's not used as much as it should be. The pea shoots, people tend to just grow it just for the peas, but grow it for the pea shoots as well, and they are lovely in a salad.
Yeah, I agree with you, Karen. They're so fresh and they just taste like peas, don't they? And
Yeah.
the other thing is, well, those are actually, you can't really see it properly, but those are actually grown in old drainage pipes, with the top cut off them. So you can grow pea shoots anywhere really, and inside as well. And the other thing is, you can use any pea seed. So a packet of like bigger peas, Buchanan's peas, dried peas you get in the corner shop will do the job for you for pea shoots. Absolutely.
They're they're up and ready in weeks. You know, it's not months and months you have to wait. It's just weeks.
Absolutely. I know. They're great for children and husbands with no patience. I think. Okay. So now we're root vegetables.
Yeah, I'm saying here, check the guidelines on your packet, but that is just a guide. But it's a good guide because it tells you when to look for them to be ready, really. Another good reason to label your plants and to put the date on when you're sowing your seeds is so then it gives you a good idea of when they should be ready for harvesting. But again, it doesn't beat the old visual check, going out and looking at your plants to see. So look at the soil, see if the roots are actually erupting from the soil like carrots or beetroot. You will see the plant or the root actually erupting from the soil, and then you've got a good idea that they're ready. And you know, you can dig down a little bit and see, or actually sacrifice one or two just to see if they're ready.
Yeah.
I like to moisten the soil, give it a good soaking, probably half an hour before I'm going out there to look. So make sure it's drained well, and then it gives you that chance to give them a pull up. Another reason that I wet the soil as well is I'm always feared of the carrot fly, and I was once told that if you thin out in a rainy day, there's less chance of the carrot fly smelling that the carrots have been disturbed and then they're coming in. But that's one of the reasons why I would soak or wet the soil. I'm not really soaking it. You're not waterlogging it, but you're just going to wet the soil, and it makes it that easier to pull the carrot or beetroot out the ground.
That's a really good tip actually about the carrot fly. I'm going to use that one now because I didn't know about that, but that makes absolute sense.
Yeah, they've got a good sense of smell. That's how they tend to know that there's carrots around. That's why you were saying the other week that you always plant yours in amongst other vegetables to disguise the smell.
Scallions, spring onions in particular.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, exactly. Yes, so there you go.
Yeah, you can see on that left-hand picture there, you can just see the carrot erupting out of the ground, and that's a good indication that they're nearly ready to be harvested.
The other thing too, Kieran, is to say, you know, it's like everything you grow at home. You know, if the top sort of small wee bit is a wee bit green because it's been exposed, that's okay. That's absolutely 100% perfect, isn't it? You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. The whole green, the whole top of the carrot, people don't tend to, they discard it, throw it away. It's a great way of adding salt to your soup, because it has a natural salt in the top. So we would always chop the top of a carrot and use that in a soup or even in a bit of a salad. You know, don't discard the top.
That's fantastic.
What's the stuff you use with pine cones? Pesto.
Pesto.
You can make a great carrot top pesto just from the green of a carrot. So don't discard that bit. Always use it.
Gosh, that's fantastic. That's kind of more food for free, isn't it?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, radishes, the mighty radish.
Oh, and this, like you were saying earlier about people with patients, children, and did you say husbands?
Husbands, yeah.
I wouldn't know anything about that, but they just grow, and you know, within a month or so, you can reap the benefit of radishes. They're really fast to germinate and grow. But don't be fooled into picking them when they're too small. Let them grow on a bit. So, like say, radishes are very quick to mature. Some varieties are ready within a month, and that is true. You know, like you said, we sowed some from the pack there into one of the plant pots, and within a month, they were ready. They were up and ready, really. So, again, just give them a test. You will, as you can see Jilly's hand there, moving them out the way you can actually see when they're ready to be pulled up.
Yeah, you can actually. And the other thing is that, you know, again, mine were sown direct on the 15th of September and quite close together. So the thing is, you know, to pick out the biggest ones and then leave a wee bit more room, isn't it,
Yeah.
for the things to for the rest of them to come on. So okay, beetroot.
Superfood. This is one of the superfoods, beetroots. You can blend it, you can eat it, um, you can do most things with it. And the leaves, again, I wouldn't discard the leaves of the beetroot. Grate in a salad, chop them up, put them in a soup if you don't like the look of them. A lot of people just don't like the look of them, but chop them up, put them into a soup. The taste's just lovely. So like I say here, beetroot will show through the soil. So again, we're looking for just moving away. You'll see the beetroot just erupting out of the soil there, and you pretty much know that they're ready. The only thing I would always suggest is that avoid pulling the leaves. Dig down gently with a fork because they'll stay fresher with the leaves still attached to them, so you can keep them longer that way. I wouldn't wash them until I was ready to use them either. Just brush the soil off them. That for some reason that keeps them fresher as well. So like I say, just be gentle the way you're pulling them out. If you bruise them or damage them in any way, then they're going to sort of start rotting, and you don't want that. That means you're going to have to cut bits off, and you can't store them really as well as you could if you didn't bruise them or damage them taking them out. So again, just wet the soil. You know, it makes it that little bit easier to come out, but dig around and loosen the soil and give them a good prizing really with it, rather than yanking the leaves off.
Sure. And again, if you're needing inspiration for beetroot, I love beetroot myself. It's one of my favorite vegetables and it's so good for you. But there is that brilliant recipe, the Belfast Food Network recipe which is in the booklet too, for beetroot and chocolate brownies.
Yeah.
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 So that's practically one of your 5 a day, I think.
It's a great food colouring, isn't it, for cakes?
It is, absolutely. I mean, the original velvet cake, I think, was made with beetroot before people just started cheating and putting red colouring in it. So, yeah, beetroot is another one of those superfoods. Okay.
Well, the old saying, you've got to know your onions. Yeah, there's like I say here, there's 2 ways to know if your onions are ready. As you've seen on the slide earlier where we had the flour from the chives, that's very similar to the flour that will form on an onion. So if it starts to flower, you know that it's ready for harvesting. So another way is to look at the foliage. As you can see, Jilly's picture there in the bottom left-hand corner, the green's fallen over and, you know, they look ready for pulling over. The green will start going yellow because it's losing that chlorophyll. So that's a good indication that they're ready. I'll say there, loosen them up with a trowel. I wouldn't suggest dampening the soil for onions because we want to try and keep them dry. So you prise these up. I'm showing you, but you can't see. I don't know why I'm doing it. Prise them up gently with a fork and then get the roots, the hairs off the bottom. You can pull the foliage as you're prising them up. Again, you've got to handle them very carefully. If you bruised them or damaged them, they're not going to store as well as they would if you damaged them, really. You can leave them for a couple of days so that they dry out, the leaves dry out, and then cut some of the foliage off, hang them up in a net or even tie them up. I've seen people, I could never do it, that have actually plaited the onions. It's great to see how they've been done to hang up, but I just can't do it. For the life of me, I can't plait the onions. but it does look nice, and it serves a great purpose in drying them out and storing them.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't plant them either. And I think too, it's important to say, you know, it's with the best will in the world, and you know, easing them out and stuff. Sometimes you inadvertently harvesting onions or spuds or whatever, you stick a bit of the garden fork through them, one of them. But that's okay, because you just eat those first,
Yeah.
you know, or kind of peel them and, you know, take the bits with the fork bit and the compost out of them, but they're still fine to eat.
Mhm.
Surely it's just they're not going, as you say, Kieran, they're not going to keep for you. And so, okay, and then storage of root vegetables, because I suppose that is something that does store well for you.
Yeah, like I put here, it's best to brush the soil off. You don't want them too wet, because if they're wet, they're going to rot, and you can get mildew or fungus forming on a lot of vegetables. So always try and brush the soil off. It keeps them fresher longer. Handle carefully, like we were saying. If you bruise your vegetables, there's more chance of rot getting in and that. So keep them somewhere damp or cool, pressed out of direct sunlight. That can deteriorate a lot of your vegetables that you're storing. Beetroot and carrots must be kept moist. Some people put a damp cloth over the box that they're storing them in. Onions need circulation for hang them in an old stocking or plat them, like we said. But you could always blanch them or pickle them. You know, there's so many endless ways of storing them. Like we said earlier, if you blanch them, you can freeze them. You know, make use of your freezer.
Sure, good tip. Okay, good tip indeed. Oh, so okay, harvesting. So harvesting seeds to eat. Last week we were talking about harvesting seeds to use again and to sow. So I assume it's pretty similar, is it, Kieran?
Yeah, well, like I say, there's some seeds are specifically grown. Some herbs are specifically grown just for their seeds, such as your caraway seeds and your dill. Well, sorry, but the likes of dill and coriander. What I was saying earlier is it's a win-win, because it's an added bonus getting the seeds as well as the actual herb itself. So if you're going to be collecting your seeds, it's best to get them just after they've the flower's been pollinated. You know, wait until they start going brown or black. Normally, they tend to be, if they're green, they're not so good. But then your likes of your fennel will contradict everything. So, but I always tend to go for it. It's a good rule of thumb that once they've been pollinated and the flowers start, you know, the petals start dropping off, that they should be ready for collecting the seeds, really. You can pick them off, like we grow the lettuce on a bit just to get the seeds from them. I find if you put a paper bag underneath and give it a good shake, and you'll get the seeds to fall into the bag. That way you're not losing the valuable seeds, really. And then keep them in that paper bag or in an airtight jar.
Yeah, good tip. And as you say, fennel always fennel is like the wonder crop, isn't it? Because you can get, we grow it for the fronds, which we love to use like dill, and then you've got the flowers, which are edible and look gorgeous, and it all tastes like licorice. And then you've got the young seeds, which are, you know, punchy and crunchy, and then you've got the, you know, the mature seeds as well. So and the flavor profiles are all a little bit different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so harvesting apples. So the apple, if you were lucky enough with your food for thought pack to get an apple tree, a few of them did have apples on them, Kieran, but
Yeah, they look so, they were such good quality trees wherever they were sourced from. They were very good quality, and like you said, some of them had apples on already. That's how good they were.
They did, and dear help them, because being carted about in vans and trailers and from one end of the country to the other, and then being planted. I'm not sure how many people would have got actual apples this year, but certainly next autumn, I would say there'll be apples for everybody. So yes, harvesting fruit, I think, is kind of a tricky one for people, Kieran.
Yeah, it's again, if you sort of grab the apple, I can't do it with this. I'll do it with. If you sort of grab it in the palm of your hand and give it a little twist, and it comes away, you know it's ready. If there's resistance there, then just leave it and go to the next one. Come back to it a day or two later. It just needs that more sunshine, and when it's ready, it'll let you know. But a rule of thumb again with apples is if it falls to the ground, you eat it straight away. You don't store that, because once they're bruised, then they give off a gas, so they can make the other ones over ripen and rot as well. So yes, like I say here, I'm digressing, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, if you think your apples are big enough, give them the test by giving it a little twist and a tug. Apples can be stored, wrap them in, old newspaper or old paper. And like I say, check them for any damage, really. If there's any bruises on them, then eat them first, or pressing every now and again. I know the conservation volunteers, they have a day where you can take your apples and press them into juice. Use the ones that have fallen on the ground for that, and then use the ones that you've picked that are in good quality and no bruises for storing. Wrap them up in paper and store them. Don't have them touching, because that also starts them to rot and deteriorate. Another thing is they give off a gas, apples, which can make your root vegetables rot as well. So I wouldn't store them near to any root vegetables like your carrots and your potatoes as such. They used to use them to ripen bananas when they were in the shipping crates coming over from abroad. That was how they used to ripen them before they found what chemical it was, and now they just use that chemical to ripen the bananas. So that's why we wouldn't really recommend you store them with your vegetables.
Sure, that good. Yeah, that very good, Kieran. We have a question here from Rory, actually, to say, is it true that not all apples are ready at the same time?
Yeah, no, they're not all ready at the same time. But that's how nature works things, because they don't want them to be ready all at the same time, because then they're all going to be competing for the same nutrients out of the ground when the seeds germinate. So yeah, it's right. They're not all ready at the same time.
Well, that's true, and also it's good for us as well, isn't it? That it's hard to store everything and keep everything, and even with different varieties of plums, you'll get some sort of earlier in the season, and then you eat and preserve as many of them as you can, and then before you know it, the next ones are coming. So like Victoria plums, for instance, will come first, and then you'll get other types in your damson types, which will be a bit later. But I think that's the wonder and the beauty of nature and growing your own stuff.
A great thing with apple trees as well is you can actually graft other varieties onto the same tree. So you could actually get 3 or 4. Well, I think if I'm going back to when I was at college, they had a large apple tree there which had 7 or 8 different varieties of apple all on the one tree. Wow. Because of the way they were grafted on, which is great, because if you like Pink Lady and then somebody else likes Golden Delicious, you could have them all on the same tree. Nature's such a wonderful thing, really.
I know, nature is.
And you get the cross-pollination too.
That's true. And I think that the great thing about growing your own is, if you go into the supermarket, you might get Golden Delicious and Brayburn and Pink Lady and if you're lucky, maybe one or two other types, but there are so many different beautiful varieties of apple, aren't there? Including
Yes,
the russet apples, you know, with they have that russet skin on them and they're quite late maturing. Well, certainly the ones I have here are, but the flavour out of those is just brilliant.
and they're more crisp as well. You know,
Yeah, I know that. It's they can be a thing of beauty. Um, so we'll answer whatever questions you have next, but and the last slide is it's just a thank you to everybody for watching all of the webinars and tutorials, and that they are all available on the Live Here, Love Here YouTube Food for Thought playlist. So we have been putting that at the bottom of our emails to you. So hopefully if you've missed anything or you want to catch up on anything, you can go there. So I'm actually going to stop sharing now and see if there are a couple of questions just on the chat box. Helen has said she usually gathers herbs just before eating them for freshness, and she loves the tip to harvest in the morning to get the best from the oils. I think for the aromatic herbs, which is brilliant. And top tip on the carrot pesto. Fantastic idea. So Kieran, you're going to have to present us with a recipe for that or something.
well, don't forget your herbal teas as well. You know,
Oh yes, of course.
you're gathering them early in the morning, and they're at their peak freshness, and that's when you want your first early morning herbal cup of tea.
Absolutely.
Can't be beaten.
Yeah, that's another good idea for Christmas, and one of those infuser teapots, you know, where you get the wee thing you can put into the middle of your teapot and just stuff it full of herbs. So what we have another question here, not too many questions tonight, Kieran, because you're obviously been very thorough with all the information. Parsley plants, how long do they last for? Do you need to sow fresh parsley, I suppose, every year? Is that the question? Or a year and a half?
You see, I've had parsley in the kitchen for at least 2 years, but you know, the way I've gathered it, it's lasted. We've had it for about 2 years, so I wouldn't say that it could go any further than that. But if you ask me in a year's time, I might know. Just
Sure.
be careful of the flowers. You know, you want to sort of get it before it flowers, because when it flowers, it tends to get bitter for some reason. Well, after it's flowered, the leaves get bitter, so just be wary of that. Take the flowers off.
Surely. Okay, with another question here from Jeanette. Do you wash edible flowers, Jeanette?
Yeah, again, like we say, just give them a rinse, because there is some tiny bugs that can lay eggs in them, and you know, you just want to make sure that they're clean. But again, if you freeze them, that's going to kill most of your germs.
Well, that's true, and I suppose, and if you are going to give them a very gentle rinse, I suppose the trick is to be very gentle, isn't it? Just gives it, you know, and so we have the seems to be the last question we have here is you can keep carrots and beetroot in sand or damp compost, can't you, in the garage, for instance, or somewhere cool once you have them picked?
Yes, and if you can't get that, you know, everybody now should be shredding any bills, or you know, the shredded paper is great for you for storing your vegetables as well. You know, you can keep it moist if need be, or keep it dry, but it's a great way of, you know, using that old paper as well. You know, rather than it going to a landfill site, use it, and you can use it again and again. So it's, you know, that's a good way of using your shredded paper, your old bills.
That's really good tip, Kieran. I hadn't thought of that one before either, so that's fantastic. What else have we got? I think we had. I think that's it. I think that's it. Oh yeah, one other final question about pears, picking pears. How do you know when pears are ripe? Because they stay hard, don't they, fairly well?
Yeah, again, it's very similar to your apple. You know, if you give them a tiny tug off the tree and they come, you know, give it a twist and a tug, and if they come with ease, then you know they're ripe. But if you find that they are still a bit tough, just pop them in a brown bag, or just pop them in your windowsill and let them ripen there, or in your fruit bowl, and they'll just ripen. Especially if you've got something nearby, like an apple that's overripe, that will then ripen your pears while it's in the fruit bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can take, depending on the variety of the pear, it can take 10 days to a fortnight really to ripen a very fresh pear, can't it? To the point where it's
Bananas is a great fruit to put with your apples or your pears, just to bring them on a bit longer. The gas that they exude tends to ripen them.
Brilliant. And this actually, one more last question is, can you keep carrots in the ground over winter?
Yes, but they just attract the slugs. Again, like I said, I see keeping them in the ground as long as I can as nature's larder, but you just got to be wary that they're going to be attacked by the slugs, because there's not much else for them to go for. They're going to go for your carrots.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Well, look, I think that is all the questions for this evening. We have run on a little bit, Kieran, but that was fantastic, and thank you very much as usual for all.
My wife says I can talk too much, so I do apologise.
No, not a bit. No, it was great and very thorough, and yeah, just absolutely brilliant. Because you should put as much effort into harvesting and storing as you do to growing, shouldn't you? Because
yeah. Well, like we said at the beginning, you know, you want to reap what you've sown. Really, you want to get the rewards for all that hard work you put into. But I say hard work; it's satisfying work, isn't it? And when you see what you've grown, you know, and then you can store it up properly.
yeah, that's true. But listen, that's brilliant. That was great this evening. If anybody thinks of any questions that they couldn't ask this evening, feel free to send it through to me in an email, and I will do my best to get it answered for you. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks again to Kieran McHugh. That's the 8th webinar now from the Conservation Volunteers Northern Ireland.
Well, thank you for those wonderful pictures that you sent, because I couldn't have done it without the pictures.
Would you wish So it's a bit of a scoot around the garden, and yeah, and directing the husband. But so brilliant. Enjoy your evening, and hopefully all of you can join us for the final webinar, which is next Thursday the 3rd, on fermenting food. So good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye now. Bye. Thank you.